I will see you guys.
All right, she promised to promote it. You guys heard
I
it.
didn't say that.
You did.
I don't promote
You guys heard it. Welcome to PIX on Pigskin from the PIX 11 Sports Department, high above 42nd Street in the heart of New York City. I'm your host, Todd Ehrlich, the executive producer of WPIX's Sports Department here, and the host of this show, and very excited to do Week 8 with you guys. So the question, are you ready for some football? Let's hope Big Blue is, and let's hope they're ready to roll in Kansas City and take on Patrick Mahomes and the high-flying Chiefs. We'll also talk about the Jets as they try to cage the cagey Joe Burrow and the Bengals at MetLife with their high-flying offense. And with Gary, we'll take a look at any possible deadline moves with the trade deadline coming up for the Jets and Giants. Let's start with the game that's up first. The Bengals...
Wait, did you call them the high-flying Chiefs?
I did. They're high-flying.
Have you been paying attention?
I actually have. Aside from last week, I think they're third in the NFL in points scored, and we will get to that later. Last week they got their doors blown off.
I take objection to this.
Well, as you should.
A team that's
I'm
3-4
objecting
is not
to your
high-flying.
objection. Well, their offense is high flying, which is what I said. Patrick Mahomes and their offense, which I will get to momentarily with stats to back it up. But I appreciate you fact checking me. It's what you
were
do.
high flying in Nashville last week.
Last week in Nashville they were grounded. The Chiefs were grounded.
Turbulence.
I mean, yeah, they scored a field goal. All right, so let's go back to the Jets and Bengals. Now that the nonsense portion of the show is over, probably not over.
No, it's not over.
It probably only just began. But nevertheless, let's get the show back on the road and back on track. Cincinnati is home. It's coming to MetLife off of a huge win at Baltimore. They crushed them 41-17. Any shot, Gary Myers, that the Jets could catch them in a trap game overlooking the Jets without a starting quarterback?
Let me think about that for a minute. No,
I didn't think so.
This one.
I tried.
I know.
I get points for trying.
I give you credit for that.
Our audience is Jet fans, so be kind with your next response.
I mean, I don't see how the Jets are really going to keep this one close. They gave up 40-some-odd points to a dinker and dunker last week in Mac Jones.
Ouch.
And Joe Burrow is just, him and Jamar Chase think they're back in Baton Rouge.
Winning national championships.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing was that all you heard out of the camp this summer was...
Go Joe.
No, it's just that Chase couldn't catch...
Yeah, that's what they said.
Can't catch a cold. Very good, Joe.
I think he did catch a cold.
Yeah, maybe that was
Which is why he couldn't catch the football.
Maybe.
Anyhow, he's been the best rookie receiver in the league this year by far.
Yeah, far and away.
I don't know how the Jets are going to cover him unless they just get a dynamic pass rush on Burrow, and that kind of went out in the preseason when with all the injuries that they had. So I think the only hope that they really have Sunday, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but if Mike White just turns out to be so much better than we thought, and lights it up.
So
but,
if Mike White turns out to be
better than
Tom Brady, right?
Oh. That means Zach Wilson, Drew Bledsoe,
right?
Without the $100 million contract.
Then we have Then
we got 6 Super Bowl rings for the Jets. This podcast is taking a good turn for
Then we
Jet
have an
fans.
incredible
Look at Joe with the silver lining. Yes.
So
oh my God.
What if?
What if? Oh my God. The White Wilson quarterback controversy.
I will say this about Mike White, that it just looked more natural to him last week.
His first pass was for a touchdown.
Yeah. The offense just looked a little different with him. And maybe they need to try that with Wilson a little bit. I don't know. It just was more of a standard offense, drop back, throw the ball, get rid of it. Wilson's always running out and, looking to throw it all the way back across the field. Or
off platform, as you say.
off platform.
Yeah.
Well, he's not a rookie quarterback, right? So Mike White's been in the league.
Yeah, but he's never played.
No, I got it. It was his first NFL action in regular
ever
season.
pass
I got it.
Touchdown.
I got it. He was
no. We can't say he'll be better because he's more experienced when the guy never threw a pass until last week.
Getting his
Well, Joe
first start
just
this
did,
week.
though.
I'm not saying he's going to be better than Zach Wilson, but I'm saying he wasn't a rookie who was stepping into that position. Right? He's been waiting for this opportunity.
Here's the best thing you can say about Mike White. All right, I mean this in all seriousness, although it's going to sound sarcastic. He can't be any worse.
Sarcastic?
He can't be. Stop it. He can't be any worse than Zach Wilson has been. He just can't.
Okay, but wait, let me ask you a question. Was he better than Zach last week? He was 20 for 32, over 200 yards, a touchdown. He had the 2 picks. Did he look better running the Jets offense?
I thought that he did, but, small sample size. Let's see what happens now that he's known all week that he's starting, and let's see how he handles it.
I mean, look, the game was really never in doubt. He came in, the game was 17-0 already. So that touchdown to get it to 17-7, I guess you could say,
yeah, it was
all right, we have a game.
We got a game.
But then after that, the wheels just came off. Yeah.
Yes.
So, you look late in the game in some of those numbers, and I think they're a little padded against a lighter coverage and, a relaxed defense. So I'm hesitant to say anything there. And Cincinnati has an underrated defense who's well outperformed expectations this season. It could be trouble for him.
And another issue here is I just sense that Jet fans have just had enough, and it's not going to take very much on Sunday for them to turn against their team. That they're so tired of hearing, well, we have a new regime, and this guy is changing the culture, and they have better players now, and this, okay, the playoffs might be unrealistic, but winning 7 games would be a huge step forward. And now you look at this team and you go, when are they going to win another game? They only beat Tennessee because Tennessee didn't have their 2 best receivers.
Right, but if you're looking at the Jets, everyone looked at this season as the development of Zach and the staff coming together and the young team coming together. Is it possible that there's a silver lining? Zach can now sit back, watch, and that could help his development, which will then help the franchise and make Jet fans feel more comfortable about the future.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for that, but you'd rather he didn't have, putting the injury aside, you'd rather not have to have the conversation, is it better sitting our rookie quarterback so we can sit and learn for a couple of weeks? You'd rather say, well, we've seen enough here, we're really going to build on it. I mean, sitting him for a couple of weeks is like the last alternative that you really want to get to. Now they have no choice because he's hurt.
Well, it's a great thing they had a veteran quarterback on the roster for him to.
Oh.
Well, they do now at least,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
They've corrected that.
Right, Joe? I mean, if they're bringing in Joe Flacco because they don't want to play Josh Johnson
Right.
while Wilson is out, then why wasn't Joe Flacco the backup quarterback the whole season? Did they just have Josh Johnson because he's good in the quarterback meeting room and Flacco's doesn't consider himself a mentor? I mean, that's possible. But with a practice squad, you still could have had Josh Johnson
Well, I
around.
thought Flacco went to Philly because he had a better chance of playing.
Yeah, but then they brought in
Hurts.
Gardner Minshew before the season started,
Right.
and it was like...
Yeah, but that's after he signed.
No, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
when he made the decision, is it really about him not wanting to mentor? Because what I read is it's about him wanting to play.
Oh, no, I think that's why he went to Philly, is that
a chance to play.
it was clear that Zach Wilson, I can't remember exactly when Flacco signed, if it was before or after the draft, but by that point it was very clear that the Jets were taking a quarterback, and he didn't necessarily want to be Lamar Jackson's mentor in Baltimore either. So I can't blame.
Well, that's different. You win a Super Bowl with a team, then they bring in a rookie, and now you're a mentor. It's different from at the end of the career collecting a big paycheck, and you know that's your role.
But this situation, I mean, it just feels handled so poorly by the organization. They give up a
the
pick to
optics
get
are
him.
horrific.
Right.
A 6th pick, conditional 5th.
And they could have brought him in earlier if they wanted to do this. The conversation was always about, do you need a veteran quarterback on this roster to help Zach Wilson's development? Somebody he can watch, who he can learn how to study film from, who he can learn about the routine.
They
didn't
didn't sign Joe Flacco to fill that role, to be the veteran mentor. That was Josh Johnson. But their idea was, well, Zach Wilson's never going to get hurt. And if he does, Mike White's going to start, and then we'll worry about it. I just think they could have got 2 for the price of 1. if they'd signed a veteran quarterback who also would go on the field if Wilson got hurt.
Well, I think they're also prepping here for worst case scenario if Wilson is out longer than that 2 to 4 weeks that he's expected here. Because if that's the case, and Mike White struggles, which, I mean, starting against Cincinnati might be a little bit of a tall task here, then they have Flacco to go to, who played well for them when he had to come in relief and start a few games
last year.
You know, one thing I want to point out, I think this is really important, that now we're talking about, the Bengals are a really good team. They're on a roll. They got a great quarterback, a terrific wide receiver.
Fifth-ranked defense.
Who had the first pick in the draft in 2020 as the worst team in the league?
The Bengals.
The Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow played much better as a rookie before he got hurt than Zach Wilson has shown at all.
In Washington.
Right. Quarterbacks always get hurt. Right?
Yes,
Griffin
it's
III,
true.
Alex Smith, Joe Theismann.
Yes.
Everybody gets hurt in Washington.
True.
Gus Farrat bangs his head against the wall.
That was
his own doing.
I was at that game. And then the next week they put up a bullseye with his
I remember
number.
that.
Unbelievable.
I mean, can you imagine that? It's
my
easy enough
football
for players to get concussions in the sleep.
Right.
On the
They get
field.
themselves.
Right.
That being said, the Bengals a year and a half ago had the first pick in the draft, and now we're talking about them as, obviously legitimate contenders to win their division, and then you never know what happens after that. I mean, by the end of the regular season, they could be the best team in the AFC. But a year and a half ago, they had the first pick in the draft. So I haven't seen the same development from the Jets this year that I saw from the Bengals last year before Burrow got hurt.
Well, here's a crazy big picture thought. I would say that the Bengals, formerly known as the Bungles, are a much better franchise overall than the New York Jets.
Wow.
And right.
That's about the biggest insult you can hurl at any team.
Well, I mean, seriously, right now,
joke.
you look at the team, right, after their consecutive years of playoff runs with Marvin Lewis, although they never got over the hump over there despite their talent, it's a short rebuild, and all of a sudden they're at the top of a really tough division in the AFC North right now, beating Lamar Jackson and handily. And you look at the future there, and it's bright. Look, thank God that Joe Burrow recovered from this injury. Because it looked pretty gruesome when he went down last season. But they've surrounded him with talent at the skills positions. You mentioned Jamar Chase. He also has T. Higgins. He also has Joe Mixon in the backfield, who's been there for a little while. And this defense, not one name on this defense is highly touted, yet they have been playing so well as a unit and getting turnovers, which we know the Jets have struggled with this season. So they're right back in the thing.
They're pretty good at giving turnovers.
Yes. They're good at turning the ball over.
Turning it over. They have not struggled with that at all, Joe.
Boy,
they've excelled there, quite frankly.
It really is a sad state of affairs when the Bengals are looking down on the Jets. Now, I'm not just talking about this year. But
as a franchise.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Marvin Lewis was he could never win a playoff game.
Right. He always got him there.
Yeah. And what people really forget, and I know it seems like a lifetime ago, the Jets went back-to-back AFC championship games in 09 and 10. And that should have been the
franchise's first 2 years,
That's right? That's right. You have to go back and really study to see what happened, why they couldn't build off of that. Because
didn't they trade away some of the big cogs in the locker room? Wasn't Jericho Cotry a guy who ended up not re-signing or getting traded away?
Well, that's when they signed Derek Mason, I think. He was all insulted and bringing in Derek Mason, so he forced a trade and he wound up in Pittsburgh. Like I said, you'd have to go back and study what happened to the core of that team going from 2010 to 2011. I mean, I remember the turning point maybe for the Jet franchise was towards the end of that season when they played the Giants and Victor Cruz had that 99-yard touchdown.
Yep.
And the Giants used that as a jumping off point to go win another Super Bowl, and the Jets have been in the toilet ever since.
So the salsa killed the Jets. That's what you're saying?
Too much spice.
Right. I'm just checking.
Knowledge and perspective
that you bring. Yes. That's why we keep bringing you back week after week after week. With appreciation, Joe, with appreciation.
Sometimes against his will, but
almost always against his will.
But he leaves
with
happy.
Us begging and pleading. He does leave happy.
The platter of bagels today with cream cheese.
It was good. Thank you, Michael.
Can we have some lox next week, maybe?
Well, I'll ask.
How about the whitefish
salad?
Wait,
we're giving out the lox here, I thought.
Right, exactly.
A little whitefish salad.
I think the lock is the Bengals, from what we've said.
There we go.
So coming off one of the worst losses in Jets history, which is saying a heck of a lot, 41-point loss in New England, Coach Saleh responds by saying the Jets will win championships. Not championship, championships, plural. Do you guys, it doesn't sound like either one of you has the same faith in this franchise.
Short term, I don't. Long term, who knows? I mean, maybe, excuse me, maybe at some point, they hit it in the draft and they sign a bunch of really valuable free agents, and Zach Wilson turns out to be Aaron Rodgers, and why not? History would say it's not going to happen, but I don't see it in the short term.
Maybe he's thinking the same thing that I mentioned earlier along the lines of the Tom Brady approach, where Mike White is the next Tom Brady in his dreams, and then they go on to win 6 Super Bowls.
Let's say he's Kurt Warner taking over for Trent Green.
Well, so
and wins the Super Bowl.
Listen,
let's not count you don't want to count the Jets out of the Super Bowl this year? Be my guess.
It starts with one. Look, there's no way you can say that long term that they're going to win multiple championships as they're constituted right now, and when you look at how this franchise is run. But if you're coaching an NFL team and you don't believe that you're moving in that direction, then you shouldn't be coaching that NFL team.
And is that the same thing for the owner? So Woody Johnson comes out with unwavering support for the job that Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh have done. Is that just an owner? Could it be the kiss of death? It's too early, right? I mean, first year.
Well, for Saleh especially. I mean,
you can't.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to that comment?
I mean, I never take this stuff unless it's critical, which is out of the ordinary. This is just owner speak. And
Right.
what else is he going to say about his general manager and
Right.
coach? They suck, and I got to
Right.
fire him at the end of the year. He's not going to say that. I do think Douglas has done a very poor job. And Saleh right now, you can't say anything but he's done a poor job because they're just not competitive in some of these games.
And that was what we were hanging our hat on earlier in the
Right.
year, right? Is that this team is going to go to the final gun. Even that first loss to Carolina, they were in it till the end of it. Right. And then, well, apparently the Patriots pulled the emergency brake on that team.
I think that's what's the really upsetting thing for Jet fans right now is that Saleh comes in with a reputation. He's a really solid defensive coach. I mean, Joe and I were talking about this earlier, but, okay, he had great players in San Francisco. But, you still have to have really good coaching. And their defense was very, very good in their Super Bowl year a few years ago. So I don't believe that he's forgotten how to coach. But on the other hand, I'm going, they just didn't seem like they adjusted to anything in New England last weekend. The screen passes, some of the trick plays.
Oh, that was something that bothered me so much. You're coming off the bye week, right? And you haven't scored a point in the first quarter. And New England is the team that comes out and runs the wide receiver reverse pass, the double pass there. This is what you wanted to see from the Jets offense. You wanted to see some of that creativity.
I don't think Saleh is over his head, but I think the coach that is over his head right now is LaFleur.
Yeah.
And what concerns me about that is, and I know they worked together in San Francisco, but Robert Saleh and Matt LaFleur have been friends for a very long time. And you worry that hire was, like the good old boys network hire, where he just hired a buddy of his and was hoping he'd grow into the job, that his brother was a coordinator and his brother's the head coach of the Packers now, and other than the championship game against the Bucs, Matt LaFleur has been a pretty good coach so far. So maybe he was counting on the bloodlines carrying through. But, to have 2 weeks to prepare and first and second down.
They look so vanilla.
You run, I think it was Michael Carter. They ran him into the line twice and
Terrible.
then have him throw on third down.
Terrible.
I mean, come on. Can we have a little creativity? When you script the plays, it's supposed to be the ones that you've worked on the most, the ones you feel comfortable the most. You don't necessarily run them in order 1 through 20 or whatever, because down and distance dictate. You can't. If it's 3rd and 1, you're not going to call a long pass necessarily. You'll call the play that gets you the first down. So you don't go according to the script, but it's all the plays that you're most comfortable with, that you feel best about, and to come out and just run the guy into the line twice, and then put your quarterback in the 3rd and 9 right off the bat.
I don't know. I look at the Jets do feel stuck in a different time offensively because you look at a league where the Chargers are going for it on fourth down against the powerful offense in their own, half of the field, in their 20-yard line was one of them on a 4th and 2 that they're going.
I don't necessarily like that stuff. But
why are we going to wait till we're the Lions and you have no losses through 7 weeks of the season to go for an onside kick or for a fourth down? I'm sorry, yes, no wins to pull out this desperation. Thank you.
No, well done.
This is the extemporaneous speaking. Sometimes.
No, I agree with you. If the standard stuff isn't working, then you got to pull out the bag of tricks. But
the standard stuff is not working.
Right.
Time to pull out the bag.
Yeah, but on 1st and 2nd down after 2 weeks, I don't.
Well, it is Halloween.
Bengal fans used to wear the bag over their head. Saint fans, Jet fans might want that bag.
I don't think they had to start with a trick play, but something better than just a simple run into the line twice.
Right. So prediction time. Jets defense gave up 54 points last week. That's not good. Cincinnati's defense is good, ranked 5th in the league. Gary, what's your prediction on the game?
What score would equate to ugly?
Well, I think last week's score, New England, was ugly.
So it's going to be pretty ugly then, because I don't think it'll be as bad as last week.
54-13 was ugly. That was ugly, right?
That was
you buy that, Joe?
I would say like 30-10 or something like that.
30-10,
a 20-point game, and that might be
a 20-point improvement by the Jets defense.
21 points. 3 touchdown improvement predicted by Gary Myers.
I'm giving the Jets maybe more points than they'll actually score, and the only reason I'm giving the Bengals less points than New England is because Belichick would have scored 80 last week if he could have, because he hates the Jets that much. I don't sense any real animosity between the Bengals or the Jets, other than in the conversation of who's been the worst team over a number of years. So I think the Jets. I mean, they can't play any worse than they played last week. They'll play a little better, but they just they haven't figured out how to score yet. And it's not like their skill position players are horrible. I mean, they got some decent receivers, and Michael Carter looks like a decent running back, and they have no tight ends that can, that are a threat. But
you started this, Todd, by asking, is this a trap situation for the Bengals? And normally I would say yes, because they have the Browns coming up next week. But the Jets are just so bad right now that I don't think they're going to be able to take advantage of the spot, because it is a bad spot for the Bengals. And then you look at what the Bengals did in their last quote-unquote trap game, which was against Detroit, and they ended up blowing out Detroit as well in that one. So this team is focused. I think that they're not going to be satisfied. I do think the defense improves on their play from last week just because you can't get any worse, and I have faith in Saleh. But I agree with Gary. They just have not figured this offense out. And I think they're going to continue to struggle there against a relatively good defense in Cincinnati. I think it's a little closer. I'll go 28-13.
Yeah. 28-13.
Silver lining.
Yeah. So Cincinnati scored 41 points last week against an excellent Ravens
I want to see how
defense.
He's going to get the Jets winning this game.
Yeah. Against an excellent Raven defense. And if you look at Mike White, first pass for a touchdown. So if he throws his first 4 passes for a touchdown, Jets scored 28 points. Defense comes up big. Shuts down Cincinnati. They only scored 27. Jets 28. Bengals 27. That's what's happening this weekend.
We're going to see any trick plays this weekend?
All the first 4 plays.
Oh.
Can we bet a couple of those bagels on that?
You actually could have the Bengals because I don't have a tremendous amount of confidence in my selection. But nevertheless, I throw it out there. Speaking of no confidence, the Giants going into Cincinnati, and again,
Kansas City.
The Giants are looking good. Kansas City looked terrible last week. But Monday night, before the game, WPIX is airing the game. So please tune into WPIX for the game.
On that show?
You should be on that show. Come in and...
Harry just booked himself another gig that he didn't want.
Right.
We'll
have bagels. We'll have more bagels
It's
for
an
you.
evening show. I need more than bagels.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, so we'll have bagels and lox.
I need pizza, chicken parm hero.
Oh, chicken parm hero.
My
I
favorite.
need that too.
Sounds
Delicious. Joe knows where there's a good one. So, but tune in Monday night for the Monday
If Joe would
Blitz.
offer to buy, we can go after the podcast.
Joe will offer to buy.
to
Joe's
DeFonte's.
rich.
DeFonte's and Red Hook.
DeFonte's?
Oh, man.
Delicious.
One sandwich will feed you for like 3 days.
That works for me.
You're good.
I'm buying a house. I need to eat one
I didn't say it
sandwich
was
for 3
cheap.
days.
I didn't say it was
If it's going to
cheap
feed me for
sandwich.
3 days, it can be
You're saying
expensive.
that Todd was cheap. That's what you were saying.
No, I don't think he said that,
No.
actually. No, I hope not. So, as I was saying, Justin Walters in Kansas City for us. We've got exclusive sit-downs with Daniel Jones, Coach Judge, Leo, who was maybe kissed and made up with the fans last weekend. So we'll see. But exciting show, 7:30 WPIX.
Exclusive sit-down.
Exclusive sit-downs, one-on-one,
Wow, that's
exclusive.
exciting.
It is exciting.
Nobody
Tune
gets
in.
exclusive sit-downs
Not
anymore.
anymore.
Nobody does. But
Justin
we
Wal-
did.
Justin
Walters
Walters
does, yes. I feel like I had a small hand in that, but nevertheless. So just the facts, as they said on Hawaii 5-0. It's a week-to-week league, as they like to say. Giants blew out Carolina 25-3, while the Kansas City Chiefs, all back-to-back Super Bowl appearances, were blown out 27-3. Any chance that's good news for the Giants, Joe?
Well, it's not good news that they're coming off that blowout loss. But look, Kansas City's not the same team that they were in years past. Mahomes is turning the ball over. The defense is terrible. And they scored 3 points against the Tennessee team that I believe was coming off a Monday Night Football game against the Bills. So a short week. And they have one of the worst defenses in the league themselves. So the fact that they can't put up points against Kansas City against Tennessee, I should say, is very alarming for Kansas City's offense, because that's the one part of the game that you expected to be there week in and week out. Look, Monday Night Football on the road, never easy. Kansas City, one of the best home field advantages there is out there, but this is not the Kansas City team that, just went to back-to-back Super Bowls. I think that the Giants have a shot.
Wow. A shot.
I always think it's so hard for teams to come back from Super Bowl losses. We know that teams that win a Super Bowl, they deal with complacency and everybody wants to get paid, and it makes it very hard to repeat, and that's why nobody's done it since 03-04, and there's been very few repeat champions over the course of the first 55 Super Bowls. But I think it's even harder when a team gets to the ultimate game and then loses. And then you gotta run it back the next year and work so hard just to try to get back to where you were. And I think that we're seeing the result of that with Kansas City now, having won a Super Bowl, did a great job getting back. It was great for them to get back, but then they played the game without any offensive tackles, which is hard to do against a good team, a team with a good pass rush. And, just through attrition, it's not the same team that it was 2 years ago. And listen, Mahomes could explode on Monday night and put up 50 on the Giants. But what I'm going to say right now is, it takes coordinators a while to catch up with guys. And, Mahomes was just different because he can make a throw from any angle, from any spot on the field and whatever. But, maybe his receivers aren't as good. Obviously Tyreek Hill is so great, but maybe the complimentary receivers aren't as good, and their running game isn't as good, and their offensive line isn't as good. So they've taken a step backwards.
And they took a chance to retool that offensive line in the offseason. They knew it was a weak spot. And
Right.
And when you invest $500 million in a guy, you think you might want to protect him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
there,
they signed Joe Thuney from the Patriots, and he hasn't played though, has he?
Chris? Yeah, no, he hasn't.
Yeah,
but that
Kyle
was-
Long.
Kyle Long, thank you. Sorry.
And then Orlando Brown, they got from the Ravens. I think that this is listen. The Chiefs could come out all fired up Monday night, and that's a tough place to play. I've been there several times. They're all going to be wearing red and screaming and yelling, whatever. But I think I think the Giants are actually catching them a good time. You'd rather catch them at 3-4 than 7-0, and I think they have a good chance to beat them. I mean, I'm not running over to Connecticut to place any bets on the Giants necessarily.
No, not on the money line, but you'll take the 9.5.
I think that the Giants will really give them a good game on Monday night, and whether they win or not, it could come down, like most games do, to one or two plays.
So the Chiefs' offense has been much maligned this year, but if you take a look, they've scored the fourth most points in the AFC. Giants' defense only gave up 3 points last week. Is there a chance that they could stop Kansas City or slow them down enough to win?
Based on what we're seeing Kansas City come off of, I have to say yes. Because, first of all, they need to create turnovers, and Patrick Mahomes has thrown turnovers. I actually look for, I think they're going to have a more conservative game plan, Kansas City will this week, because I think they've Mahomes has gotten away with so much in his career and has had all these highlight reel throws that I think he doesn't have the receivers and that chemistry that he maybe had previously, which Gary touched on here. And maybe Tyreek Hill is a little bit slower because he's got a tweaked hamstring, which I was hearing about. So if that's the case, then maybe they go a little conservative and run the ball a little bit more and just try and make sure that they don't give the Giants short fields or easy opportunities. But when Tennessee can hold you to just 3 points, that's eye-opening to me because they have not been able to stop anybody. Even that win against the Bills, they managed to score with them. They didn't stop them, and even Josh Allen slipped on the quarterback sneak that maybe gives them the ball game there. So I do think that the Giants' defense can slow them down this week.
One little tidbit about Mahomes is that Ben McAdoo, who is not really fondly remembered here as the Giants
No, I don't think so.
Although he had the first year, it was the last time they made the playoffs. People were saying a lot of good things about him. But what I remember is that he loved Patrick Mahomes before the draft. And that must have been 2017, I guess, because the Giants were picking a little further back because they made the playoffs the year before. And Giants didn't trade up to get him. But I do remember before and after.
And Kansas City didn't they?
Yeah.
They traded up to number 2 to.
No.
What number was it?
It was like 11 or 12.
Yeah, but they traded up to get him.
Because Houston traded up to get Deshaun Watson.
Right.
And Kansas City traded up to get Mahomes. And I think it went Mahomes and Watson in that order, maybe like 11 or 12 or 10 or 11 or something like that. But, so McAdoo, a lot of teams were secretly in love with Patrick Mahomes. And that would have been a good get for the Giants, right at the end of Eli's career. And instead of benching Eli for Geno Smith, he could have benched Eli for Patrick Mahomes, which probably would have gone over a little bit better.
I think so. So if they're going to slow down, Mahomes, I think that Leonard Williams is one of the keys.
You like Leonard, don't you?
I do like him.
You're tight with it. You call him Leo.
I do call him Leo. It works out for me. I think that after his playing career, he might have a career in the cinema. That's what I think. So,
all right.
Leo works. So he has the whole booing thing. He complains about the fans. Turns around last week, has a safety and a sack and a half.
I think we established this, though. I'm tired of people saying that he complained about the fans.
I'll play you the soundbite.
He didn't complain about the
He
fans.
complained about
They
them
asked him
booing.
how he felt, and he said it didn't feel good. He didn't like it. That's not complaining. You asked me how I feel about a situation. I'm going to tell you.
But if you're unhappy about the situation, you complain. You've complained about the situation. Prompted or not prompted.
No, you're answering a question. It's the difference.
I don't know if there's a difference. Complaining's complaining.
I don't know. There's a difference between actively giving the
Well,
fans a
that's
thumbs
ridiculous.
down and
Well, he actively blew kisses.
right to
How'd
say I
feel
love
about
you
that?
guys. It's all love.
It's all love?
Yeah.
So this weekend, or Monday night, is he one of the keys to if the Giants want to try to win this game?
Well, I think he's a key to every game the Giants play because he's got the best chance of providing, a pass rush, especially up the middle when he move him inside. He can be a force, but that's not rocket science to figure that one out.
That's why you figured it out. Now, how much are they going to miss a captain, Jabril Peppers? And is that something that maybe Mahomes, he's pretty good with the deep ball, Hill's sort of quick. Like, how much is that going to hurt the Giants?
It's not going to help them.
No, but his playing time was shrinking.
And he's not great in coverage.
No, that was his weakness. It's kind of like a little Jamal Adams situation there. That Peppers was better, is like almost like a box linebacker. He's a very versatile player. He's a leader in the locker room. He's a good special teams player. He's a good punt returner. It's a shame he got hurt returning a punt. I think they'll miss his presence because he is a vocal leader, but in terms of what his contribution has been on the field, it was being diminished anyhow. But that's why I was really surprised this week when Joe Judge came out and said that he wants him back. He's a free agent and he'll be coming off an ACL, but he was really adamant this week that he wants him back.
Well, look, he has said he's trying to build his culture in there, and he is one of his glue guys that you need in the locker room.
Right.
One of 6 captains.
Yeah. But from a coverage standpoint, I don't think the Giants are missing out by not having him there. Now, look, there's a different thing with communication, just in getting people in the right spot and things like that. But they're not going up against the team that likes to run the ball down your throat where he would be up near the line of scrimmage, like if they were playing the Titans or something like that. So I don't think they might miss him most in special teams, in all honesty. That's probably where they're going to miss him most in this game.
Which is coaches will tell you it's a third of the game, Joe.
It is.
They do tell you that. So one of the other thirds of the game is offense. Daniel Jones, coming off of a good performance last week, he ran, he threw, even caught a ball. And the Kansas City defense, which we talked about earlier, statistically bad. 28th in yards allowed, 26th in passing yards allowed, 27th in rushing yards allowed, and 28th in points, giving up a whopping 29 points a game. Do you guys think that this could be a game that Daniel Jones continues to play well?
I think after this game, we're talking about Daniel Jones and Patrick Mahomes dueling it out.
Oh, come on.
That's what I think this is going to come down to, seriously.
Wow.
But because it's not, first of all, Daniel Jones has looked good this season for the most part. If they don't turn the ball over, he has looked really good this season. And it was just that one game against the Rams defense that is probably one of, if not the best defenses in the league.
And 1 week after suffering a concussion also.
Right. So, and yes, they got blown out in that Cowboys game, but before he went down, they were in that game. And I think that it's yes, I know. I'm getting looks here, which Todd can. He likes that I acknowledge that.
Finally,
the Cowboys
after arguing
them
with me
out.
last week.
Yes. But before he went down, that was a competitive game.
Yes.
And I think that this week, against a bad defense, he's going to be able to exploit them the way he has all season. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I like the play calling that Jason Garrett has been utilizing this year. And I am not, the biggest fan of the Princeton Clapper. And I think that he has used Daniel Jones in so many different creative ways. So this week I expect him to punt and kick a field goal so we can round it out. But Daniel Jones is going to have a good game.
Third of the game.
There you go.
So,
What was the question?
Okay, prediction time. That's the question. Who's going to win?
All right, here's the most important part of the game, is the way I see it. Who's playing for the Giants? I mean,
Right.
Is Tony back?
Right.
Is Galladay back? Sterling Shepard?
Shepard, yep.
I don't know about
They have a
Barkley yet.
running back that
Right.
might or might not play.
You put all those guys in the field, and if they're healthy, Giants all of a sudden can potentially score with Mahomes because they're going against, as you said, a statistically bad defense. And I'd just like to see the Giants with all their players healthy at the same time for a sustained period of time.
Right.
And even Monday night, if they're all back and they don't do well together, it's because they're still getting used to each other because they just haven't been on the field that much together. But I think potentially, if they can protect Jones and have all the skill guys back, they can score a bunch of points against a bad defense and hang in there against Kansas City. So I'm going to say, I want to be consistent, but I can't remember what I picked on the show. I can't remember the score I picked.
Please tune in to the New York Blitz to see
Yeah.
if Gary Myers is consistent with his predictions.
I'm going to be consistent, and then I picked the Giants on the show. I'm going to pick the Giants here. That I know about. I'll say like 27-20, 27-23, something like that. I think the Giants will win.
Joe?
I think this game comes down to one thing,
Ooh.
and maybe it's cliche, but it's all about turnovers. The quarterback, the team that turns the ball over less in this one wins,
Mahomes
in my
has turned
opinion.
it over a lot this
Exactly. And so if he limits the mistakes, if Daniel Jones limits the mistakes, I think it comes down to which team turns the ball over more, ends up losing this game. So I actually think that the the Giants will turn the ball over less, and I think they pull off the upset on the road here.
You're such a homer.
Well, I think
I'm a worse homer.
I think I picked two. I'm sorry. I think I picked two New York team
No, I'm
victories
just kidding you
this year.
because I picked the Giants also.
Yeah.
And I'm not a homer, but
So, yeah, I think the Giants win this one. I think it's going to be high scoring too, something like 27, 24, 30, 27, something like that.
28-27 Giants. All right, with the last question.
wait. Isn't that the same score you picked the Jet game?
It
Yeah.
is.
Oh, is
The exact same score.
Consistent.
Yeah, I wrote it down. 28-27. It's all I can read.
All right, last question.
All right, last question. Trade deadline's coming
All right.
up. NFL Insider, what do you got?
You know, it's much more active than it used to be. Teams are finding that making trades, and I think they, by pushing it back a little further into the season, it's given teams maybe a little better indication of where they stand, so that after 8 or 9 weeks they're ready to bail and be sellers, or a team is surprisingly doing well, they become buyers. So I think we've seen more action at the trade deadline than we have. As far as the Giants and Jets are concerned, the two most likely names, if they make a trade, are trading Marcus May and Jamison Crowder, because they're both in the last year of their contracts. And I think Crowder is the one that really needs to go, simply because they need to open up the slot for Elijah Moore. He's a slot receiver who's been playing outside. He's had a very quiet rookie year.
Especially based on the expectations they had for him coming into training camp.
He had a great training camp, and
Yeah.
we're talking about him as potentially being offensive rookie of the year, and he just hasn't done anything. I just think they're playing him out of position, and it is a big difference playing outside as opposed to playing in the slot. It's a completely different skill set. Marcus May, he's one of the 2 or 3 best players on the Jets, and maybe that translates into them getting something decent in a trade. And Joe Douglas has not been afraid to trade the big name players. Obviously Sam Darnold and Leonard Williams, who we've talked about, Jamal Adams, and there's some more. As far as the Giants are concerned, I think they could be buyers if they win on Monday night, giving them hope that the season is salvageable with potential wild card run. If they lose, what are the Giants now? 2-5. So if they go to 2-6, they might say, okay, it's just not realistic, and they could sell off some players.
If they're buyers, who do you see them targeting?
Well, I can see them, trying to get some linebacker help, or maybe some help in the secondary to help make up for the part-time role that Jabril Peppers was playing. If their offensive players are back that we've talked about, then they don't really need help there. Obviously, they can always use an offensive lineman, but
Right.
you're not picking up. For the most part, I don't think anybody's trading a real quality offensive lineman. But if the Giants turn into sellers, then the long-awaited, long-rumored trade of Evan Ingram to a team that needs a tight end could finally happen. He's another player that's in the last year of his contract. I'd be shocked if the Giants re-signed him next year. He's just been so inconsistent and not exactly a fan favorite, although you don't make decisions based on that. I think he's probably run his course here with the Giants.
Very good. So that wraps up another episode of Picks on Pigskin. Don't forget, please, thank you for listening. Watch Gary Myers on the New York Blitz, Saturday, 10:30 p.m. New time. Very excited, between Coyote and Seinfeld. So that's very, very exciting.
I didn't know we had a new time.
You have a new time.
We're not on
Set your
Sunday mornings
DVR.
anymore?
No, set your DVRs, everybody. Speaking of setting your DVRs, that's Saturday night, Sunday night. Tune in to Joe as he hosts Sports Nation, which we're very excited about. We got Michael Rappaport in this week in the studio, so that should be a lot of fun. And then Monday night, the Monday Blitz, as we talked about, we got Leo before he goes his acting career, Coach Judge, and DJ, and we lead into Monday Night Football on PIX 11. Appreciate it.
I think if this doesn't work out, you could have a good film career.
Oh,